Welcome to another episode of Glitter and Girl Talk with DPD. Of course, I'm your host, Ebony. It has been a while since we've had a video, I think maybe a year, and that is because I had a baby who is now 4 months old. Yes, I had a baby. More on that story to come because it was definitely a journey. If you have not already, make sure that you subscribe. You're going to want to hear this video today. We have a very, very special guest. And I want to make sure that you guys are subscribed so that not only you can hear the video once, you can hear it twice, 3 times, whatever necessary to get you through whatever you may be going through. And also share, hit the notification button because we want to make sure that you are notified every time we drop a new video. So today, our guest is Mrs. Tania Caesar Cornwell. She currently holds the title of Mrs. Southern Maryland International 2022 and is running for Mrs. Maryland International 2022. Hi, Tania. Thank you so much for joining us. It is so good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to see you as well.
Of course. Mm-hmm. So, of course, we know each other prior to this, and let me be the one to say I'm super proud of you. I'm seeing your face everywhere. You're doing great work everywhere that you're going. So thank you so much for taking a little bit out of your busy schedule to talk to us today. And we're talking about something so important and is so relevant for the times that we're living in, and that is mental health. We know that there is such a huge stigma around mental health, especially within the Black community, right? And so you were willing to come on and give us a little bit about your story, your own struggles, and what has led you to be an advocate for mental health and girls. And we share the same passion there with raising up girls and increasing their confidence and helping them to navigate through the troubles of life, right? Because we all know that life hits us one way or another, right? We just don't know what lies ahead, but it's all based on our coping skills and what we've put in place to help us to get through, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So before we get started, do you want to tell us a little bit about your upcoming run for Miss Maryland International and a little bit more about what you have going on so we can let our followers know? And we definitely want you guys to go and vote because we want to see her win. She's doing so great with her title right now. So we want to see her do even bigger things. We are going to put the link to vote in the caption. So make sure that you guys go and vote for her.
Yes. Thank you so much. And honestly, this is my very first pageant I've ever entered into. I knew nothing prior to entering into this pageant about pageantry and what that entailed. I actually had a stigma myself growing up as I would watch pageants or as I would flip through the channels and see pageants on the TV screen. I always thought that pageantry just seemed so irrelevant to life and developing you to be confident and to actually stand before people who don't really know you and to be judged based on what are you being judged on? And I thought that they were being judged on solely the way that they looked. And for me, that made me just uncomfortable and never really had a desire until I realized that. And I was taught recently and educated on what pageantry is all about. And what it's about is your community service and what you're doing to make the place around you better, what you're doing for other people, essentially. And different pageant systems and industries have different platforms and things that they represent. And the pageant system that I'm running for, it's mainly focused on your platform and what you are advocating for, what you're passionate about. And that's what made me want to do this, is because I essentially want to go around and I want to spread awareness and healing and impart healing to anyone, but my focus is young girls, teens, and women
Of
who are
course.
struggling through depression, severe depression, and no longer wanting to exist. And I want to champion for them because I am someone who overcame that. And this pageant, running for in this pageant, has really given me the opportunity to enlarge my audience, to have more speaking opportunities, and just has educated me, has caused and forced me to educate myself even more so on my platform. So it's been such a great journey. It really has.
Awesome. And again, I am super, super proud of you. I cannot say it enough. And in
Thank
speaking
you.
about even not wanting to exist anymore, in the news over the last 2 weeks, right, we have heard about so many people committing suicide. And
Yeah,
that tells me that people are losing hope. I know that COVID didn't help, but I think mental health issues got pushed to the, pushed to the back. It's not on the forefront of everyone's mind. We're not paying attention to the signs. Many people don't even know the signs, because 1 minute you can look up and be completely depressed, as you stated, and then the next minute, when it's when it's too late, right? It looks like somebody catches and says, "Oh, I should have paid attention to this." Oh, or I did see this and I said or did nothing about it. Um, we've just had so many people um, committing suicide, and it seems back to back. If we're watching the news every day, it just seems back to back. And our youth are especially suffering mentally, and it seems like it came out of nowhere. But really, this has been an issue that is very pressing, but COVID seems to have helped to bring out more awareness to it, or make it a little
for
louder
sure.
in people's faces. And so just
Yeah,
looking back at the 2022 statistics, and we're only in February of 2022, and right now about 50 million Americans are suffering with some type of mental illness, and that is a lot of people. If we think about how many people that is, it technically, when you go to the grocery store, probably about half of those people in the grocery store are suffering from some type of mental illness.
right.
Hmm.
And okay. Pardon. What were you,
No,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
even.
Yeah. No, you're fine. Go ahead. Yep.
So to that, I would just like to say, I think the reason why there is such a big stigma on mental health is because of the label itself, an illness, mental illness being attached to the way someone is feeling and the season that they're in can easily turn someone off.
Yes.
And when you think of the term mental, yes, it's mental, but when you attach illness to that, as if you're sick, as if your mind or your brain is broken, then that does sound like a hopeless thing. And I myself, from experience, did not like that term and didn't feel comfortable talking about what I was dealing with. And I think for
Yeah.
other people, it's hard when the term illness is 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 put on the topic of mental health. So I like to address it as mental health
Absolutely.
because I believe your words have power. Your
Mhm.
words are so your tongue is so powerful, and what we speak is very important. And if you are taking on the title of a mental illness, then that's going to become your identity, as opposed to a mental health issue that you're facing that you can overcome with hope and with certain coping mechanisms and skills and behavioral health plans and shifting your whole entire lifestyle. And that, I think that's very important. And I think being educated on that and people understanding that it's not a mental illness,
Mhm.
it's it's mental health that we need to focus
Absolutely.
on. I think that would immediately start to revolutionize mental health in the communities.
Yep. Yep. I can 100% agree. And even going back to um, being mindful of what you speak over your own life and those around you is another big thing. Because if you're constantly saying, I'm mentally ill, or I suffer from this mental illness, or something like that, then it pretty much takes a hold of you, and you no longer in your mind believe that you can defeat it. However,
Yes.
like you said, if we say, if we kind of flip it into more of a positive thing, that we are overcoming this. So if we say, I'm focused on my mental health, or right now,
Yes.
my mental
See,
health is
even
at the
that.
fore. Yep, yep, yep. My mental health is at the forefront of everything else.
Yes.
I think it even feels better for people. So yes, that is very powerful. I'm so glad that you spoke that, because um, even, men are a lot different, than women are. And even with that, it the pride thing, the ego thing, and for someone to say, well, you're mentally ill, or a therapist to say, you have this mental illness, and people are afraid to say, and especially men, they really don't come forward. You have a better chance of a woman coming forward to say, hey, this is what I'm suffering with. But men are less likely, and they hold everything inside. And so if we can just change the way we speak about this, I think men would be more ready to come forward and get the help that they need. And in general, men and women, and especially youth, if we change the way we speak about it and just change the way we look at mental health, and we always talk about self-care. We talk about, we go get our nails done, we go get our hair done, we make sure this is done, we make sure that is done. But what about our thinking process? What about the
Yeah.
way that we speak to ourselves? What about the way that we speak over our lives? What about the way that we take time to educate ourselves on what may be going on with us mentally? So
Yep.
this is, that is very important. And I'm glad that you did bring that up. Absolutely. So hopefully with this
Yeah.
video, we'll be able to change the way people speak about their mental health, versus
Mhm.
their mental illness, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back a little bit. When did you begin to feel that you were suffering with mental health issues?
Yeah. So I at the age of 4, I
Wow.
knew
Okay.
that I was sad. I was constantly distraught, and I was never really happy. I
Mm,
remember being 4 years old and experiencing immense sadness. And I think that is when I started to realize I'm just a sad individual. I really don't know why. I know, well, actually, I knew why, but I felt like I really didn't have a lot of control over the situation because
okay.
I was 4 years
So
old.
young. I'm 4, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And so I think I started to just at that age understand that something's just off.
Okay.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. So that is
Yeah.
so young, you right? Because we both have children, and if we think about at the age when our children were 4, right? That has to be such a heavy thing for a 4-year old. You know what I mean? Because when you think about a 4-year old, we're thinking, okay, they're playing with Barbies, they're playing with trucks, we're watching Sesame Street, we're doing the fun things. But you were carrying something very, very heavy, and it was heavy. It turned into purpose, of course. But
Hmm.
thinking back, that is extremely heavy for a 4-year old to. Oh,
Pardon.
God bless you. Oh, you're fine. Bless you. Um, okay, so at that time, you said I felt like I was carrying sadness, but then you also said, well, I looking back, right? I guess you can say, will we say that it was the environment? Will we say, it was the things around you, or maybe were you carrying on, how can I put this? Were you maybe carrying on, I don't want to say the burden, but maybe the personality, or the feelings of those within your household? What would you say at that time maybe was going on, and not personally going on, but maybe environmental things that you maybe feel were bringing on sadness within you?
Absolutely. I know that the biggest reason for my sadness was attributed to my environment
Okay.
and what I was exposed to. And I think that just organically just started to manifest itself in me.
Yeah.
And I started to display those immense feelings so early on. It's unfortunate, but that's just what it was for me.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think that's what it is for a lot of people. Um, and if we think about, I mean, because we're in our 30s at this point, but if we think about our parents, they weren't really equipped to say, let me call a therapist and figure out what's going on. Like we would know these things. We would know to say, okay, let's pick up the phone and call a therapist, but that wasn't the answer back then. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think that makes it harder because you kind of suffer in silence. And, to think about being 5, 6, 7, because increasingly, you're growing in age and now you're picking up being in school, trying to make friends and trying to get to know other people, trying to figure out who you are, so, and I know that depression had to make that even harder, right? Because it's hard as it is, but I'm pretty sure that made things more a bit more difficult.
Yes, it did. I hated going to school. I would
Oh, wow.
throw a tantrum every morning. I think I was like 5 years old. And at the time, I was staying with my aunt. And I did not like going to school.
Oh,
Every single
I'm
morning
so
we
sorry.
had, yes, we had a family friend neighbor who would come to our apartment every morning, and she would ask me what I wanted, what my lunch consisted of that day. Like she would make my lunch for me if I wanted a
Okay.
peanut butter and jelly or a ham and cheese, and I would say ham and cheese or peanut butter and jelly, and then she would make my lunch for me. She was so nice. I think she was like a few years older. I can't remember how many years older, but she definitely was old enough to walk us to school. So
Okay.
think she was maybe like 7 or 8 years old, but she would make
Wow.
lunch for me. I know, right? To be making my lunch.
I know. And
And
then also taking on the responsibility of saying, hey, let me knock on the door. What time we leaving out of here for school? So shout out to
exactly,
her.
right. And I just remember on the walk to school, I would take my lunchbox. It was a metal lunchbox, and I would slam it across. I would like beat her with my lunchbox every day. No, no, I don't want to go to school. I
Oh,
would be like screaming and kicking, like, no. I hated school. And I would beg
yeah.
my aunt every single morning, can I please stay home today? Please, please, please. I
Oh,
did not like
yeah.
school. And I think that honestly lingered into my adolescent years, into my
Yeah.
teen years. I just did not like school.
Yeah.
I think there were seasons where I did enjoy school. I enjoyed it like because I was during that time I wasn't experiencing depression or anything, and I was mingling and advancing in my friendships and my social settings, and I was just living a quote unquote normal childhood.
Hmm.
But there were seasons that got really dark, and they would come out of
Yeah.
nowhere, and pardon,
No.
and I would just hate school again.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, I get it. I mean, because um, I think a lot of people don't realize too when we see behaviors, right? There's something at the core of those behaviors. But oftentimes we say, oh, this child is bad, or they're angry, or they're this, or they're that. But there's always a reason for everything. There is a reason at the core for behaviors, right? So you see these kids in school, they're acting out, they're acting out. First thought should be, this kid is probably going through something. But we
Yeah,
don't typically do that. And especially in the school system, everybody is so quick to punish, 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 suspend. And we don't really take the time to get to the root of, okay, there may be something actually going on at home or
yeah,
something deeper going on with this child.
yeah.
So initially, how did you feel coming forward? Because again, we talked about the stigma behind it. You worried that people would say, "Oh, you're crazy," or things like that. So how did you initially feel coming forward? And then how long did it take you to actually say, you know what, something is wrong?
Coming forward, I didn't even realize that there was something to come forward about. I thought
Mm,
that that was normal, the way
yeah.
that I felt, because I hadn't really experienced for years of my younger childhood. I hadn't really experienced a happy, joyful, ongoing, consistent state of being. It was mainly me feeling sad, worried, and anxious.
Wow.
There were times and moments of happiness and me laughing and enjoying myself and having a good time. But the highlight of my day to day was being worried. I was always worried or fearful or scared or sad.
Mm.
So coming forward wasn't something that I felt was a need to do, because I thought this was just the way that people exist and this is just how it is, until
Okay.
I started to physically display symptoms of depression. And I remember being back and forth at the hospital, my mom constantly taking me to and from the doctors to be tested for cancer, to be tested
Wow.
for appendicitis and stomach issues, because they found blood in my stool. I was
Mm.
always anxious. So I was always using the
Tense
bathroom.
and stressed. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really stressed, and I have had constant panic attacks in my stomach. They would always come in the form of me having a really bad upset stomach, and I was just always so sickly in that way. So
Mhm.
once they started running all these tests and realized, no, she's physically healthy. It wasn't until 8th grade where a doctor sat before my mom and said, there is absolutely nothing physically wrong with your
Yeah.
daughter. She is just severely depressed. That's when I realized, oh, okay.
Yes,
That's what's going,
something's
that's what,
going on.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not
yeah.
physical. But you know what? To be honest, so many people go through physical changes in the body, and we're quick to say, okay, let's run to the doctor, let's run to the doctor. But a lot of things and symptoms that we feel, and I can speak this from experience myself, right? Because I've
Mhm.
been through, I mean, so much trauma that it's ridiculous. I can say it with a smile on my face because, of course, God has brought me through, and my faith has led me to a place where I can smile about it and I can say, okay, I
Right.
made it through this. Now, girl, hold my hand, let me help you get through it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Amen.
but it, I felt myself going back and forth to the doctor. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. I'm like, no, something's going on. But it was here. It was here. It was the stress,
Mhm.
right? It was the
Yeah.
stress. It was the trauma and everything in between. And I think a lot of people don't realize that stress, trauma, those things absolutely can take a toll on the body. And I am a certified support specialist. And one of the things that we're taught with that is that the symptoms of stress and trauma typically start here in the gut, right?
Mhm.
So when you say blood in my stool and severe stomach issues and stomach pains, it really starts here, travels here, because there is a connection with the stomach in the head, so
Mhm.
it just all it all just ties together, and it makes sense, which what you said with your stomach issues and just physically feeling sick when there is nothing physically wrong. And I also want to note another thing that I learned along the way in my course is that things like lupus and multiple sclerosis, they did a study. It was this guy, he did a study, and most of those people who were diagnosed were caregivers of someone else and took on secondary trauma, which he believes brought on those illnesses, because being a
Yeah.
caregiver is such a heavy job, you know what I mean, especially of those of who have Alzheimer's and things like that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so they found when they did their study that those people who were caregivers had more of a likelihood of developing those diseases based on secondary trauma of being a caregiver. And it just blew my mind. It really blew my mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So once you did figure out, and the doctor said, listen, she's severely depressed. So
Mhm.
let's move from here. Did you fear judgment of telling other people? So of course mom knew because mom was there, but
Mhm.
you have sisters, right? And
Yeah.
at that point, I'm pretty sure you had friends. So did you fear judgment of saying, listen, this is what's going on with me?
No, absolutely not,
Awesome.
because Yeah. For me, and it varies from person to person,
Right.
but for me,
Right.
that's one of the strengths that I've always had is never, and I really admire this about myself, and I am tooting my own horn. It's
Yeah.
necessary.
Oh, you should beep beep. I'm gonna find a horn sound to put here. You should.
Yes, but one of the things that I've always admired about myself since childhood is not being afraid of getting help.
Yeah.
I've never been afraid of getting help. I've never cared about what other people may perceive it as because I never liked feeling hopeless. I hated that feeling. It was very frightening. So for me, anything that would get me out of that element and take me to a place of happiness and peace and serenity, I wanted and I latched onto. Didn't care what anybody thought. I
Yeah.
knew that I did not want to feel the way that I was feeling. So no, I didn't fear judgment. I was relieved. If anything, it was relieving to know, okay, this is what's going on with me. Now we need to figure out how to fix this,
Yes.
how to get me onto a brighter path and onto a promising future, into a promising future, because I don't want to contend with my life as this way. And now that we have a diagnosis,
An answer.
let's go
Yeah.
ahead and yeah, let's go ahead and get some help for me. So no, I didn't fear judgment. I was relieved.
That's awesome. So, what would you say to those who do fear judgment? Because it's plenty of people. I mean, I think that that's the number one reason why people don't come forward is one, fear judgment, fear of people saying, "Oh, you're crazy," or "It's not as bad as it seems," or some people can take these things so lightly and make only how you're feeling on the inside. So I could easily say, "Girl, get it together," like
Mhm.
things like that. But if I could get it together, I would get it together. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for
Exactly.
those who are afraid to say, "Listen, I'm struggling. I need help." What advice would you give them?
I would tell them to try as hard as they possibly can to block that out, because what people have to realize is that every single person in the world has some sort of struggle.
Yes.
And just because others are silent about theirs does not mean that they're not going through something or that they have an insecurity about something. It may not be their mental health. It could be their identity. It could be
Mhm.
their confidence.
Confidence. Hmm.
Exactly. But it's something. So you coming forward about what's bothering you so that you can be the best person and the best version of yourself is actually commendable. And it
Yeah.
actually does display a sense of confidence and empowerment, because that it takes a lot of courage in this day and time to do something like that.
Yes.
And it's not
Hmm.
just about yourself. You're also helping other people because they can look at you, look at your example. And the more and more people that are able to come forward, the more people that will want to do the same thing, and we'll start to see change in this. But I would tell people to just not to focus on themselves. And if anybody, if they have an inkling of care or matter about what someone else could be perceiving that as, remember that everybody is going through something, everybody has their own thing, and they have there's never a room or a position for anybody to speak on someone else and what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
They need to focus on themselves and can't care about what they're thinking.
Hmm. And one of the things that I always say is my story is not my own, right? And I say my story is not my own because the things that I've gone through before, if I hold on to them, how will people behind me or people attached to my assignment in life, how will they know how to get through it if I hold it on to myself? If I hold on to it myself, right? If I don't tell my story, if I don't tell my struggles, then how will people get hope? You know what I mean? How will they know
Yeah.
this? I can overcome this. I can get past it. So again, thank you so much for coming on and telling your story because oftentimes people go through, I mean, and they go through so much. We all go
Mhm.
through so much, honestly. We go through so much. And if we don't tell our story or if we don't let someone know how we made it through, we hold the key. You know what I mean? Like once you've overcome and once you get past it, you now hold the key to help someone else do the same.
Yeah.
So initially, when we sat down and the doctor said, okay, this is what's going on, what steps did we take to get help then versus where we are now in our journey and the steps that we take to stay healthy?
So once my doctor gave the diagnosis as severe depression, I remember him giving my mother a card, and I remember the card was a number to a psychiatrist and to a therapist. And I went to the therapist. I remember her name. Her name was Sue. I can't remember her last name, but I just remember I was struggling with so many different things. Pardon. And I just remember going into her office, my therapist at the time. I was 15 years old, I believe. Was I four? I think, pardon, I was 14. I was 14 years old. And I just remember going into her office and having noxema on my face because I had this self-image complex of myself of wanting to perfect my appearance. I wanted to appear perfect. And I did not like people looking at my face without it being like, because I was constantly told I was so pretty and I didn't see it. So I would wear noxema on my face to make it even more so that I could see it.
Okay.
So I remember just going into her office and having my noxema on in some baggy overalls. And I just remember at the time I was also going through an eating disorder. So I just remember her saying, so can you explain to me like what you're going through and why are you wearing noxema or why are you wearing that facial cleanser? And I just started to talk to her, and she became more like a friend. Right. And then I remember during that time, my mother had I don't know what group she was or what company or place she worked through, but she was like a big sister. And she came in and she took me to the zoo. She would take me to the park and ask me things. Just ask me like, what do you like to do for fun? And she became like a mentor. And I remember just having a few visits with her, and then I'm not sure what happened, but I did appreciate those visits, and I did gain. I feel like someone who understood. Therapy and counseling really did start to shape my understanding that it's important to have counseling and to have those, just that as an option, an alternative for mental health, because being able to process that with people when you don't understand it yourself is very crucial to being able to put things to an end. It's getting to the root of something that you didn't even know existed, and then being able to put it to rest through that processing period. And going to counseling and therapy helped to do that, and having that mentor for that time period helped to do it as well. And where I am now is making sure that no matter what season of life I am in, God has to be at the forefront, the center, and the very end. He is ingrained in everything. He is my end all be all. He's my very best friend. Yeah. And that is essential. It is substantial. It's needed for me to even be able to do everything that I do. Without God, I am absolutely nothing. Yeah. And some people, I'm not sure I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that, but some people may, have differing opinions about that based on their religious beliefs.
Of course.
For me, God is literally the only reason why I'm able to do everything that I do, because of that boldness and that me discovering my identity in him, me discovering my strength in him. And without him, I am the most insecure person without him.
Yeah.
So that's what, for now, my relationship with the Lord. And even then, I got saved at 8 years old. Mm-hmm. I had a very close relationship with the Lord. At 8 years old, it's so wild because I was going through so much, and I had such a close relationship with the Lord, but I was so, or not, but I was so engaged in church. Like it wasn't just, how children, you sometimes see them in church and they're just like playing with stuff or writing on stuff, doodling, not really paying attention because they're 8 years old. For me, when I went to church, I wanted to know more. I had such a hunger and desire. I would read the Bible, scripture, page for page, chapter for chapter, at 8 years old, highlighting, understanding, and being so engulfed with the word. So at a very early age, I wanted to know more about Jesus. And I believe that he put that desire in me because of the purpose that he has in my life, and just for the things that he has me doing at that early age. I needed to know Jesus. And even though I departed from that relationship through my teen years, rebelled and lived for a chunk of a season in a rebellious time frame, when I came back into that relationship, I discovered so much more that I just hadn't known about God. And there's so much more to be discovered.
Mm-hmm.
And he's shown me so many things. He's revealed so many things. He's given me so much wisdom that it honestly has wrecked me. Like, I'm completely wrecked. And without Jesus, I don't know how anybody cannot have Jesus. He's the
Absolutely.
answer, the solution for every single problem that we have in our lifetime.
100%. 100%.
I know I didn't mean to get all spiritual, but I did mean to get all spiritual.
No, listen, I am all for it. Anybody who knows me knows it's me and Jesus. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, that's just it. And that's why I said our stories are not our own. I can absolutely relate. In my teen years, I'm like wilding, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my grandmother, she raised me and she had me in church. I mean, it was Baptist church. So we was there from 7 a.m. until late service 3. So we getting home 6 or 7 o'clock. So I'm right there with you where, you know, even being that young, you know, we knew to call on God. We knew how to sit with God. Like, you know, like I said, my childhood, there was a lot of abuse, and people who know me, they know, you know what I mean? But somehow God has sustained me. And I know that it was only through because he had a lens, he had tunnel vision for what my purpose was going to be, right? I always used to say, why do I just go through so much, but I'm standing here in this position today to say, oh, I went through this, so now I can do this. I can sit on here and interview you, or I can sit on here and relate to you. I can go into these schools and I can relate to these girls and I can say, listen, I've been there. But there is something on the other side if you can just hold on to God, if you can just trust his plan, no matter how hard it may seem, trust in his plan, it's worth it. It's well worth it, because once you get on the other side, you'll see why, okay, this was the purpose. This is the reason why I walked through this fire, but I'm not burnt and I don't smell like smoke. You know what I mean? So I'm right there with you and I understand 100%. And that actually leads me to my next question. Does faith play a role in your ability to be mentally healthy and bring awareness? And the answer is absolutely yes.
Yes, absolutely. It plays 100%, because here's the thing. People don't understand that when it comes to mental health, there's a physical element to that. There's a mental element, but there's also a spiritual element. Yes. And what people don't realize is that we wrestle not against just flesh and blood, but we also wrestle against this spiritual realm, the dark realm. Yep. There is an enemy that is after us constantly. And Absolutely. He always, his first priority is to attack our minds.
Your mind.
Yes. And if he can get into your head and dismantle your mind and the way that you function, your beliefs, and annihilate any kind of power that you hold as an ambassador for God's kingdom, he's going to do that. You can treat mental health all day long with the mental components and the things that are available for people, medication, behavioral health plans. You can treat it with physical exercise, eating right, surrounding yourself with a strong support system. But if you don't attack the spiritual, and if that is not taken care of, if you don't know the power that you have through the Holy Spirit, and if you're not able to attack those thoughts in your mind that the enemy will try to plant there with renewing your mind to scripture and what God says and the truth, then you'll never truly be able to overcome mental health in its entirety, because the enemy is going to constantly poke at you. He's going to constantly poke at you, but you have to have the spiritual weapons to be able to defeat him. We in our natural selves, cannot do that. We in our natural abilities are not able to defeat the enemy. He's defeated through the Holy Spirit, through God, and the power that we have through that relationship and that God has put in us when we come into that relationship. And that's why you have so many people that are going around years and years on medication, having to up the dosage, having to switch and see which one works. That's why you have people who don't even take medication, but who are on behavioral health plans and who go to health and wellness centers, and they still don't have peace. Yeah. God is the essence of peace. He's the one who brings peace and gives joy. And if we don't have him, we're still not going to be completely fulfilled.
Absolutely.
And that's point blank, period.
Yes, absolutely. It brings tears to my eyes because I know there are so many people saying, but I'm on medicine, but I'm doing this and I'm doing this. What am I missing? It's God. It's God. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's literally God. And I'm so glad that you're able to bring this forward because I just know. And when I look at the news and I look at the teens right now and all the fights in school, I'm looking at just the bomb threats going throughout this. It's just so much going on. And I'm saying, it is a mental health crisis right now, but it goes beyond the mental health piece. It literally goes to Bible. You know what I mean? Yep. It goes to what's in your heart. Is Jesus in your heart? You know what I mean? Where do you stand with God? Where do you stand with Jesus? Where are you? Because it's leading people to do things that they wouldn't necessarily do. Hope is gone in so many people's lives. You know what I mean? I like to believe that I'm a hope dealer. You know what I mean? Giving hope to those who actually need it. And I'm hoping that this video will do that somebody will hear and say, you know what, God is my missing piece. He's the missing piece to my puzzle. You know, I'm searching and I'm searching and I'm looking for peace. You know, I'm trying to find it in this place and in that place, but it's been God all along, you know? Yep. Perfect. This is perfect. Like I said, it brings tears to my eyes because I know people will continue to search and search and search and search. And like you said, there's no peace, you know. We try to go and we try to make more money. We try to, you know, get a better job or move to another state. But if God isn't here, you know what I mean, then it's not true peace. It may work for a moment. It may work for a moment, but it's really not true peace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you had to think back, right? So we're 32 now, I think.
33.
Okay. So we had to go back to 4-year-old Tania, right? What would we, as 33 Tania, say to her if we had to write a letter, right? Or if we had to write something to prepare her for this journey from 4 until now, what would we say?
Oh, man. I would tell her to continue to endure because at the end of endurance is perfection. And the Bible tells us that when we are able to persevere and we are made perfect through our endurance, then we won't lack anything. Yeah. So I would definitely continue to encourage myself in that. I would also encourage myself to not quit things. Whatever I get involved in, whatever passions I'm involved in, do not quit at the feeling of no longer having a desire to do that, because our feelings change all the time. Yeah. But if you endure even in those different passions and interests that you are involved in, it's going to, you'll be better off with not quitting and staying in something that you are great in and that you really enjoy, so that you can start to develop yourself earlier as opposed to later with not quitting and just sticking things out. I would tell her to not get involved with certain crowds and to stay the course of focusing on that relationship with the Lord, because anything in opposition of that is dangerous and it only leads to emptiness.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I would just tell her I would just tell her that she's loved, that she's chosen, and that her confidence is not in what she looks like. It's not in what she has or she doesn't. It's in her relationship that she's discovered with Jesus. And as she continues to get older and learn more, it's all going to click one day and it all makes sense. But just don't give up. And no matter how loved you feel by the people around you, know that you are loved in Jesus. You are whole. You are made whole. And you're loved more than you could ever imagine.
Absolutely. That is amazing. I'm gonna have to and I know that that's going to speak to someone today. You may be speaking to your 4-year-old self, but someone watching this video, they will absolutely feel that in their heart. You know what I mean? And let that help carry them through. So then lastly, for those struggling with mental health, we won't say issues. So for those who are just struggling and looking for an out, what message do you have for them to put them on the path that they, should be on, and to give them some hope, and be a hope dealer? Because, I love to spread hope. We need it.
Yeah. My message is to get around people that are going to pour into you, and anyone who is taking life out of you, anyone who is in opposition of joy and things that are positive, you have to get away from those people. And you have to surround yourself with a strong community and support system. There is hope for you. You are not without hope. God is hope. He is his characteristic is hope. In him is hope. And because of that, we are never without hope. Absolutely. And if you can get into relationship with him and renew your mind to what he says about depression, about sadness, about fear, because he's not given us the spirit of fear. Fear comes from the enemy. Mm-hmm. He's given us power, love, and a sound mind. Absolutely. So if our minds are sound, and if he's given us a sound mind, then that means that he has to be immersed in our presence, in our day-to-day lives. Cut off distractions. Mm-hmm. I would say to cut off distractions and anything that is going to cause you to waver from your thought process, anything that is going to get into your mind and influence your thoughts to think contrary to the truth, contrary to what God's word says about the matters that you're facing. You have to get rid of them, because people don't realize, so many people, the things that they listen to, the things that they watch even, are influential to how we think, how we process things, and what starts to become our truth. And
the belief system, it becomes your belief system. Absolutely.
Yes. So I would that would just be my message to them, and to also take care of your body, take care of your temple, because someone had to pay for your body. Jesus paid for your temple. Yeah. And we should treat our bodies as a sacrifice before the Lord throughout our entire lives. And in doing that, we are cognizant of what we eat. We are cognizant of what goes into it and how much physical exercise we get, what we're exposing it to. Mental health plays into so many facets of our lives: our physical health, our emotional health, what we're allowing in our lives, and the company that we keep. There's so many different components and layers and pillars that we have to make sure line up with God's purpose for us.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't,
we are.
Yes. And if it doesn't belong. And it's as simple as that. It does not belong. You just have to choose. Mm-hmm. You are given the choice, because we all have free will. And it comes down to choice. You have to be able to make a decision on whether or not your mental health is worth you fighting for, and it's worth you taking a stance and saying, I'm no longer going to allow things that are going to disrupt that. And it's so possible. I'm a living testimony, an example of that. And I go around and campaigning for real results, long-lasting results, life-altering and changing results of your mental health being the best it's ever been, and being in completeness and wholeness. And that is going to be with discipline. You have to live as a disciplined person, but you have to choose to do that. But you are never without hope. There's always hope, even if you feel hopeless. I know what that feels like. I myself felt hopeless for so long, even though I knew the truth. I knew that I was not without hope, but it didn't change the way that I felt.
Right.
Until I had to continue to renew my mind daily and have other people, when I didn't feel like renewing my mind because I just didn't feel like it, those people would constantly encourage me and say, no, you are with hope. You are with hope. You are with hope. You need those people in your life. You need those people in your corner. Do not isolate yourself. The enemy will use that. He will use that to his advantage to continue to attack your mind. You have to be open and available for people to come in and support you. And trust me, eventually you're going to see a change. You're going to see a transition and a transformation within your life. And you're going to be on the opposite side of it, walking through life, trying to also help other people, or trying to help other people, who you see going through the same exact thing. You're going to show them how the mountain can be moved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up. So many people get into a dark place and then they isolate. Oh my goodness. Wrong thing to do. It's the easiest thing to do.
It's the most comfortable thing to do, but it's the wrong thing to do. Absolutely. And that's where it comes down to choice. Because again, you're not going to always feel like doing something, but if we're always led by our feelings, we're going to make so many not great decisions. You honestly have to be led by the truth, and you have to choose to be around good people, optimistic people, powerful people that are going to be able to speak life into you, pour into you, and help you and encourage you when you cannot do that for yourself.
Yes. Well, I'm going to speak this into existence because I believe it. Mrs. Marilyn, tell me again what we're running for. Well, what our new title will be.
Mrs. Maryland International 2022.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys. I'm going to put her link. We have about 20 days from here, right?
Yes.
We have about 20 days. I need you guys to vote. Make sure that you vote for her because we want to see her in her new role. We will see her in her new role. Thank you so much for sharing your struggles with us, sharing your story of overcoming. I know without a doubt that you're destined to do great things. I can't wait to see all that you do within this world. I also, again, I can't say how proud of you I am enough. You know what I mean? So just watching you grow and watch you continue to grow. So just know that I am proud of you. I know that your family is. I know those watching are. And guys, I hope without a doubt that you guys got something that you were able to take away from this video. Again, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe. Please share this video because there is someone who needs to hear it, and push the like button. Thank you again, Miss Tania, and I will see you on the next episode of Glitter and Girl Talk.
Yay. Bye, guys.